Welcome to the Microschools Show, your window on the global microschools movement. Whether you're a teacher with a dream to build a school of your own, or perhaps a parent looking for a school that suits your amazing kid, you're sure to be inspired by the creativity and innovation of our guests. I'm your host, Dr. Mara Leineberger. The Microschools Show was launched to feature guests from all over the globe who've championed personalized learning for students by building a microschool of their own, as well as to spotlight some of the key players in the movement. Today, I'm speaking with Melissa Liew, who is the school leader of Learning Fresh in Malaysia. So Melissa has the distinction of being our very first international guest. Established in 2011, Learning Fresh primarily works with homeschooled students due to the shared vision that's held between the school and families that education should be child-led and child-driven. Over the course of years, thousands of ideas have been exchanged between teachers and students, allowing Learning Fresh to truly build an organic platform for students by students. Learning Fresh continues to strive for education that matters to the whole child in every way possible. No limits, no questions asked. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome. And I should say good morning to you. It's 8 o'clock in Malaysia, correct?
It's 9:14.
9:14 in the morning. It's 8:14 here in the US in the evening. So you and I had this fun job of trying to figure out a time that would balance well for both of us to do your interview.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for meeting me.
So the first thing I want you to do for our listeners is tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to create Learning Fresh in Malaysia?
Well, my actual profession, I started off in advertising, and I actually worked in the United States, in Florida. When I came back, I realized it was very, very different. The scene was different, and I tried my hand in teaching. And I used a lot of my advertising strategies in teaching kids and how to get the audience and whatnot, and to use the right tone and formats to reach out. So from then on, it was a very simple goal to have, just to teach, just learn how to teach children. And slowly from then on, I realized, okay, this syllabus is not working for this child. We shouldn't be expecting the whole class to be working on the same goals or the same level expectations. So what happened was I started my own center after working for a language center for 2 years. And slowly we built that traction one by one. We had parents coming forward, and they come to Learning Fresh and they present, oh, my child is facing these sort of challenges in school. Are you able to help? So it was also very, it was more of a, I think I can help your child. Let's do this. So it was very personalized. It was always centered around the child. And then the group got bigger. And then it was centered around the group. So it was more about creating dynamics, taking a look into their characters, their learning disposition, where they are academically, and also their background. If they have any special challenges, special needs, if they are facing any family issues, we would also take into account of those variables. So we've been around since 2011. We are known to help families and support families. We don't call ourselves homeschooling centers because I think that's quite misleading. So we aid homeschooling parents. Our parents are also quite active in schooling their kids, but we give them a sense of community, in the sense that they have classmates, they get to do things together, get to have fun together. So it's a place for them to learn and grow. So far we've always been calling ourselves Learning Center, but merely because we've never actually had the term micro school before. And when I came across micro school, I thought, oh, okay, this is exactly what we're doing for the past few years, because it's very customized. And we have bigger companies reaching out to us. Are you interested in franchising? Are you interested in doing this and that? Are you interested in opening up 50 chains? And it was, financially, it seemed great, but it didn't make sense because what we do is we wouldn't be able to replicate center by center, student by student, class by class, you see. Unfortunately, 2020, we are all facing the COVID-19 pandemic. So right now we're all online. It was a huge, we actually adapted to online learning very, very quickly. The first 2 weeks it was a fumble. So teachers, students, lots of homework, not enough homework, getting the kids to pay attention, using different strategies and different apps to get to hold them. So now it is 8 years, 8 months, 8 months in, and the kids are doing great. We can customize their learning even more online because it is it's faster and it's so much more effective. Um, but we are looking to reopen our schools next year when we feel when we think that the country is able to contain the situation better.
It sounds like the situation in Malaysia. I mean, the pandemic has really exploded here in the US again, and yet
Mm,
many of our schools are still open. It
mm,
sounds like it's a very different situation in Malaysia that Malaysians are taking it seriously and agreeing with the choices of your government to stay closed too.
I think it's to really answer to the parents. But the thing is, we weren't closed the whole year. So schools in Malaysia, they opened and they closed and they opened and they closed. And it wasn't good for the children because, they keep their hopes up and then they get disappointed again. So in a way, so for Learning Fresh, we made the choice to just go online until for the rest of the year. We did not, we told our parents we're not going to reopen any of our centers because that does not make sense if we are going to have them come into school and we worry about their health rather than their learning. So for Learning Fresh, we're set. So we have made that decision. We're online until end of this year. But if we talk about our national schools, our local schools, it's quite, it really dampens the spirits of children right now because I do have other kids coming from other schools and they take up single courses with us, and when we communicate with them, they lose their motivation. They are wondering when they can have some sense of normalcy. So they provide more psychological and emotional support right now, not so much in
Yeah.
academic support. Mm-hmm.
So I'd be curious to hear, what a typical day is like for a learner at Learning Fresh. And I'm actually curious to hear pre-pandemic and post-pandemic because looking at your website and getting to know you a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, you've gone from one center and just you or starting out just yourself, right? To
Mm-hmm.
now you have or had two physical centers, and you told me that you have, I think, six staff members. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so give us a sense of what did it look like pre-COVID, and who knows what it's going to look like post-COVID, right? I mean, because a lot of what we're doing now is going to, I think, change teaching and learning forever. But what did it look like before, and what does it look like now?
All right. When I was, of course, I was younger and I was really ambitious. We went up to 5 centers. We had 5 centers, and at that time, I think the mistake was thinking that the same school philosophy, values and philosophy would apply in every school. But when we were working with people and everything would somewhat change. And that's when, we had certain, because when it comes to microschooling, it's all about structured freedom. You see, we can't lay out a plan and this is what you do. It's very reactive. It's very responsive. So what happened was after 5 schools, we closed down 3 schools and we um, um, made sure all the kids came to our 2 main centers. Um, so I would say one of the biggest mistakes that we went through was trying to expand too fast. So that was pre-COVID. Of course, it was great. The traction was great. A lot of you know locally we are quite recognized and established. Um, but the delivery wasn't there. So I do not believe in opening up now. I don't believe in opening up too many outlets trying to attempt the same thing because every child is different. Every teacher is different. Their relationships are very special. So it's very important to be able to find recruit teachers who would take a sense of and who would lead to an owner teacher role in future once they are comfortable and they are familiar with Learning Fresh. You
So
see.
maybe you're cultivating potential franchisees from within. That to
Yeah.
me makes a lot of sense. I know the work that we
Mm,
do in Micro School Builders, it's each
mm,
individual teacher is building the school that's a unique design. I have a client who's starting to look at franchising. So this is a really interesting story for her to hear. And I also have talked to some people who've been approached to replicate their schools, and they've had similar um, things that they needed to think through, which is, who am I giving away my ideas to? And I'm responsible for that model and the quality of
Mhm.
that model and the name on that model. And is this person ready and capable of actually working the way that I have seen that works best with kids? And
Right.
like you said, they're so different. So much of what I'm seeing is that micro schools really work best when they're this vision of the teacher, but they are completely focused on a child, and they're very responsive to the needs of the kids who show up. So you can't plan,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you can't plan a whole lot ahead.
Yes, yes, exactly. I think it's more about when it comes to our values. It's not about children running wild and free, but rather we have this we have this sense of we've got to be open-minded and be and to be able to talk to the kids, not talk down to kids. So we don't actually impose a rigid schooling structure in the sense that they've got to come into class, they fall into class, and they've got to do this, this, and this. But they have choices. So what we do is, we instill, okay, children, you have boundaries, right? These are your boundaries in a classroom and in a school, and this is what you need to achieve during the first half of the day. And after your playtime, after your break, you will get to choose what do you want to do. So it goes both ways, you see. So we are able to reach our target goals, and at the same time, they also feel heard and listened to. Oh, I get to do this once I learn this. So at the end of the day, they end up being very confident learners, and also inquisitive. They would ask many questions. The other day, we were talking about we were teaching history. So this is my 9-year-old student. We were talking about the ancient Romans. So back then, the Roman Greeks and goddesses, back then, people would sacrifice humans and animals for to worship the Roman gods and goddesses. And we were exploring about, what do you think about those people back then? Do you think it is unethical? So this student of mine, he posed a question. He said, Miss Mel, if that's the case, don't you think people in the future would think the same of us? You know? So these are the sort of deep thinking questions that they would ask, and we feel, and we're proud that they are able to see it from a very broad perspective rather than just taking in information. Um, so that's what we want to instill to get them future ready, to get them become global responsible citizens, to
So
be
it sounds
aware.
like you have like mostly academic kind of focuses in the morning, and then more
Mm,
self-directed learning in the afternoon.
yes,
Now,
yes.
how is that translated to online learning?
Right now, okay, what we do is for the older students, we will explore topics. So these are certain goals. So say, for example, if we are working on water pollution, right? We will all teach them theories, what's happening around the world. So after that, it's not completely free. So let's take a look at the water conditions in other countries. Let's take a look, and then when we Google it up, there'll be a few countries, and then they get to decide. Oh, I want to work on Syria. I want to work on Malaysia. I want to work in the US. I want to work in Russia. So that's your choice. It's free. It's open. So whenever they do the projects or presentations, we do not have the parents intervene. We want it as organic as possible. We do not write the script. They will create their own script from scratch. So presentation, planning, meeting, presenting, it's all. So, and then after that, and as young as 8-year-olds, they do self-assessments every time they complete a project. So whether it could be an individual work, it could be project, pair work, or teamwork, they have to do a self-assessment, and they know everything is kept confidential, private and confidential. In a way, it's sort of like working in a company, but scaled down to kids. And that, and what we've been doing online, they are growing so much further. They have exceeded our expectations. And we've been working with these kids for so many years. So it's just shocking. So we also question ourselves, oh, okay, in fact, we didn't actually expand our boundaries. They could have done this, you see, but now we're only seeing this now that we're online. So in a way, as ironic as it is, even though we have to switch online to online learning, it's not the greatest it's not the best choice for children. But now we're seeing it, and the kids are seeing it. They're realizing, oh, I can do so much more. I don't have to rely on my parents. I don't have to feel scared anymore about asking questions. You see, so now they're much more much more independent. They know how to look for reference text, and they ask good questions. So I think this year we have accomplished what I've always wanted our kids to be. So
So
it's
what
quite
kind of
ironic in this
technologies are
one.
you using to bring your kids together virtually? Are you using a learning management system? Are you
Mm,
meeting like on something like this, like Zoom? You know,
mm,
how
mm,
does it,
mm.
how do you actually get your kids together virtually?
We're meeting on Zoom. We have a Google Classroom. We use multiple apps across the board. So say for example, it's a lot of like it's a lot like classroom management. So say for example, if we're teaching math, and to seal the deal, we always get them. We'll say, let's go to the math playground. And to them, it's so much fun. So that's just one small example. Let's go to math playground, and they get, yay, we get to go there. So once we transfer the knowledge, that's when they get to play with their friends. Or they will conduct it by a quiz. So many ways. So homework, it could be quizzes, it could be live tests, games. So it's almost instantaneous. We do use a lot of YouTube videos, especially for those visual learners. But kinesthetic learners, we do conduct science experiments. Also, any sort of experiments if we're able to do so at home, we'll do it.
Do you send
So
materials to your students to do those kind of things, or are they responsible for gathering?
they are they are responsible.
So how does Learning Fresh compare to, I don't think our listeners will know that much about Malaysian education. So can you sort of
Mm.
describe the traditional Malaysian education system?
We have three secular schools. So we have three main nationalities. So we have the Malays, Chinese, and Indians. So we have three different sorts, and we call them national schools. So those schools are free. And then we have private schools and international schools. In Malaysia, people would choose to either enroll into a Chinese school or international school. Not so much in other schools. And it's very extreme actually. There's two schools of thought. If I were to send my child to a Chinese school, it means that my child would be very well disciplined. Or if I sent to my child to an international school, then they will be well-rounded, all-rounded. Or for example, my child is lacking confidence in this school, I have to pull him out and place him into an international school, and everything will be all right. And this is where Learning Fresh comes in, because parents will be saying, how can I try doing this, I tried doing that, but it's not working. My child is still very shy, or my child is suffering from low self-esteem. So what we do is, although we have, with 63 students, we have full-time students and we have part-time students. Now these part-time students, they attend other schools as well. But when they come to us, we fill in the gaps. And so we don't just focus on academic support, but it's also, we support them emotionally to teach them how to navigate. Because all these things, everything that a child faces, all of us would face, you see? So it could be meeting new friends, making new friends, if they were bullied, if they're home, if the parents are going through a separation or a divorce. So this is where we come in, because we take care of the whole child. If a child is not does not feel emotionally stable, it would affect the child's learning. So that's one of our core values.
Yeah, it's the thing that I see here. And you and I were talking briefly before we started that, you weren't calling yourself a micro school until you ran across the word. It's only about 10 years old, and it really has all of these best practices. And in my mind, the thing that makes micro schools unique is that school revolves around the student versus the student fitting into the school. Like you just said, the Chinese school is for a certain kind of child, and the child conforms to that, and the same with your international schools, whereas Learning Fresh is designed to really celebrate the child and figure out what makes that kid tick, and how do they learn, and what do they want to do with their life, and get them excited about learning.
That's right. But what we do here, we go against the grain. We're trying to break the stigma. When we do have kids with autism, they are in the spectrum. We have loads of kids with dyslexia, kids ADHD, ADD. And the thing is, especially when parents first, when they make their inquiries, they do ask, "Are you a special needs school?" So no, we're not. If you're looking for a special needs school, I can refer them to you. But if you're looking for an inclusive environment, this is who we are. So we're not going to place a label on your child. We know that your child is facing these sort of challenges, but it's not like we will treat your child in a way that your child would feel that would feel that he's special, he or she's special. So we don't do that with our kids. Our kids, regardless, all of our kids, I would say all of our kids have been with us for quite some time. They have excelled, they are able to cope, they are expanding their potential, and we're so glad, because in other schools, they would place them in a special needs class, and then that would affect them. So for us, it's not so much about fixing it. A lot of times they would say, oh, can you, stop my child from doing those tics? Like, no, that's your child. And that's something that's a natural response. If your child is if exhibiting tics, that's, we just go with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to laugh about it. The kids would just laugh. It's like, why are you, and then they learn to be strong. And kids being kids, they're really innocent. And they were, oh, why are you talking like that? Especially we have another student with cerebral palsy. And he laughs about it. He explains, yeah, because I'm born with cerebral palsy. You see? So in a way, good on you. Good character, strong character.
Yeah.
So we don't want, we're trying to break it. And unfortunately in Malaysia, because we're not, I would say we're still considered a developing country, right? So not many people are well accepted. You're not exposed to that idea. And I champion this every single day. Just because your child studies with another child with autism, it doesn't mean that your child will get it. You see? But rather, you should learn, teach your child to work with kids who are just a little bit different. You see? Broaden your perspective.
Well,
So this is
what they're gonna be working with people who are different from them when they're adults. So learning, and I see so many people who are running micro schools, celebrating these differences and figuring out, I've heard some people call it like it's a superpower, and it's figuring out what can that difference create in ways that we look at the world, or ways that we collaborate, or and as a positive thing.
I think it really, when it comes with the COVID situation, I think in future, and it's going to come very soon, maybe in 3 to 5 years time, the whole environment, the landscape will change completely. Yeah. And I feel that kids, they've got to be much more creative. And they have to be more creative. They've got to be very nimble, and to be open and flexible about learning new things. Not so much about completing a 4-year degree. Of course, maybe that'd be a major step. But not only completing 4-year major degree in the end, but also to have micro degrees. Be interested in coding. Be interested in taking Spanish. Be interested in this. Take a mini course, 6 weeks, just to broaden your perspective. That's all. So I think, especially kids but my kids with certain challenges, it comes with it, the passion and the commitment. They're so good at what they do. They excel. It can be art, it can be presenting, but it's mostly creative arts, actually. That's where they excel.
I'll tell you something that our listeners would probably be interested in hearing. A lot of people who are listening to the show are thinking about building schools. You have this degree in marketing. How have you learned to communicate what Learning Fresh does to a population that only knows, these very traditional Chinese and international schools as the choices that they have available? How do you get parents to know? Because ultimately, when we're marketing, we're going to serve the child, but we market to the parents. How do you help parents know that HelloFresh, it's not HelloFresh, Learning Fresh. How do you help parents know Learning Fresh isn't just some, fly by night or crazy idea that their kid's going to be okay?
We've been around for quite some time. It hasn't been easy, but I stuck to it. So it's just like, I'm a new parent. When we meet, we'll have meetings like this. And it's not so much about getting the parent to enroll their child, but it's about us understanding, okay, do we share the same core values? Because that's very important. So the first relationship is actually between the school and the parent, not the school and the child. You see? So if you believe such core values, if you have this strong conviction, then we can go further. Then we become partners in teaching your child, in educating your child. So our parents, we're all very like-minded. And when it comes to marketing, we don't really spend much. In Facebook, maybe a little bit here and there. but we do not advertise. But we have group, so it's very internal. This parent will refer this other parent, and this parent will think,
Yeah.
oh, this is working great for my child. I'll refer another parent.
That organic word of mouth is really great. It's, the people tend to group themselves together with like-minded people. So, I
Mm-hmm.
totally get that. And it's really good to hear you say that, you started small. It was just you built it up. You maybe got a little too big. You pulled it, reined it back in. So how many students and teachers do you have now? I mean, I know before COVID, you were down to 2 centers. So
Mm-hmm.
kept all of your students. How's that working out for you?
We have a lot. We have some kids who have left us because they have chosen to go back to physical schools. Because we made a choice. We said, in order to keep everyone safe, we're going to shut the school for the whole entire year. And that was because we don't know what was going on, and somebody had to make that decision. So I knew I had to make it. Um, but we've also received kids globally as well, and also from other states in Malaysia. So in a way, it's sort of, oh, okay, now the school is, it doesn't have to be with, it's not just, we're not constrained to a certain local area, but it's everywhere and anywhere.
Oh, so you've gotten that gift of by having to go online, you were able to
Mm,
offer your services to kids who wouldn't have been able to get to you if they had to
mm.
get to a learning center. So you said do you have 6 staff now and about 60 kids?
Oh,
Some
we have four
okay,
teachers and
work.
63 students. Yes, so scaled down. But the thing is, there's so much more. In a way, they have more classes to teach, but it's lesser paperwork. It's lesser ancillary work. They focus more on teaching right now. So in a way, it pans out. It balances everything. Balances out. But when we reopen, we are going to adopt a high flex approach. Now that's a new thing. Personally, I'm also quite nervous about it. We're not sure how that would pan out, but let's hope
Well,
that'll be okay.
is there anything else that our listeners should know about Learning Fresh that you haven't said so far?
Mm-mm-mm. Mm, we're taking it day by day right now. Especially, it's very different. It's a very different time compared to before. So I would say, to all educators, take small steps at a time. It's fine if you're stressed out, do something that you love. You know, I think what most teachers and parents and even children, I think it's the uncertainty of when normalcy will be back and what to expect when schools are reopening.
Yeah, I think here, when our schools closed this past spring, it was this release of all of the testing and assessment that was required. And I think there was this, even though things weren't perfect, people relaxed a little bit. I think our public schools here have gone back to a lot of requirements to show mastery of content, which has been really difficult to do online. It sounds like you're just serving the children where they are with what they need, and you're still teaching them, but you're not necessarily taking, I don't know how to describe it, because you are taking it seriously, but you're putting even more emphasis on the social and emotional needs of the child now and the families, and making sure that they're getting the supports that they need, because at the end of the day, if those needs aren't met, kids aren't going to learn any content anyway.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So I think I heard your dog barking. Was that correct?
I know, that's why I had to mute myself.
That's awesome. So this is if you can answer this question, great. If you can't, and I should have told you ahead of time so you could have thought about it, but I usually like to ask if somebody, came to you in Malaysia and Learning Fresh wasn't a good choice. Have you seen any other good options for kids, or is Learning Fresh like the thing that
Mm.
the alternative? Are there any good alternatives in your area?
Um, there are a lot. It's a lot of alternative learning centers, and what we are is very okay. What I know is what I get from our parents. They come in and they say, "Oh, I wish I found a place sooner," because it's either alternative learning centers trying to model after a school, or alternative learning centers just for special needs children. So we are even more niche than compared to everyone else around us. So I would say we have quite a strong positioning. Of course, there are great schools as well, but what we do, we're quite gray actually. So we're not either this or that, and that's what we are. That's our beauty. Um, so whether your child is typical, neurotypical or not, it is fine. Come in. Your child will have loads of fun and um, learn in a way, learn at his or her own pace. So I think that's our that's what we're strong at. So it's more we blend. Basically, we're the blender. We blend everyone in.
Fantastic. Well, listen, our 30 minutes have flown by.
Mhm.
If you're listening today and you want to get in touch with Melissa, please visit her website, which is www.learningfresh.com. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you'd like to be a guest on the show to talk about your microschool or to share your work in the microschools movement, please reach out to me at mara@microschoolbuilders.com to set up your interview appointment. And until next time, be well.